Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the weekly MMA Cycles Market Update. Today is Wednesday, February 26th, 2025. I'm Gianni DePoci, your host, and we are joined this week by the one and only Wiebke Held from Germany. Wiebke, how are you today?
Hi, Johnny. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. Very great. I'm happy to be here. And this is my first time on a YouTube show, so I'm looking forward to the conversation today.
Indeed. Well, it's great to have you. And for those that don't know, Wiebke was a top graduate of the recent run of the Merriman Market Timing Academy, MMTA3, and she is now the editor of the MMA Tech Report, which is going to be something that we discuss today a little bit because some very interesting developments taking place in the markets right now. So let's go ahead and jump into it right now. Wiebke, starting off with the Dow, we are seeing some selling pressures here, which is pretty interesting. We have, Nvidia set to report earnings today. We did have an announcement earlier in the day from President Trump on 25% tariffs on the European Union, and that led to a pretty sharp reversal here in stocks after being up earlier in the day. So we're now out of Mars retrograde, going into Venus retrograde. What's on your radar? What's your take on stocks? Are we in for more downside, or can we look forward to a bottom here as Venus sets to change directions?
Yeah, so markets are interesting right now for sure. My take on this is that we're currently forming a major cycle bottom here pretty soon. I think we saw the major cycle crest earlier. And now we're heading into the trough. And same in the Dow, same in the S&P, same in the Nasdaq. We're all we're all in the time bands. And specifically, we are also in a critical reversal date range for the Nasdaq, which we also published in the tech report. So it all fits pretty well together. I think the big question will be the rally that will take place after this, and how far more of a decline we will see here. Because for the Nasdaq, is at least we're hovering around that lower trend line that's connecting the past few primary bottoms. So a break of that trend line, or a significant break of that trend line, would concern me a little bit, and then we would need to monitor closely for if we get more downside. But for now, I think all is still favoring the bullish scenario here, with a little bit of caution. But if we're forming the major cycle trough here now in this week, then I think we will have another rally, and then looking to take out the former highs. If we do not take out these highs, then we need to be alert again. But for now, we're staying with that scenario.
I totally am with you on that, on the need for us to make new highs. The Dow didn't make a new high on this latest rally. The Nasdaq 100 cash market did. The futures did not. But today we have Nvidia earnings, and we're going to talk about Nvidia in a little bit here because that's part of your tech report. But it's interesting today. You have the moon in Aquarius, so Uranus rules the day, and Uranus hanging out there in late Taurus still. And to me, I think we're due for some sort of surprise on Nvidia, and that's a market moving stock. So I'm looking forward to getting your thoughts on that in just a moment. But I'm with you. It's so interesting to see how the public perception of the markets change. Now a lot more people are bearish, more caution. Then there's some good reason to be clear, but we're also in the time band for a bottom. And that's the beauty of the cycle studies, is that it gives you an idea of when you might be due for a reversal. So yeah, I like your take on stocks, and on the tariff front too. It's interesting. Venus, a big important planet when it comes to trade and agreements, going retrograde. You have these announcements now, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were almost reversed during the retrograde period, and that's been a big cause of the volatility so far. So do you have any additional thoughts you want to share on Venus retrograde, since that starts on Saturday, and then the next day we have Sun square Jupiter? So anything you want to share on the upcoming geocosmics here?
Yeah, sure. So Venus retrograde in itself, at least according to my CRD studies and geocosmic signature studies, is not a big reversal signature for the Nasdaq per se. Yeah, so I'm not expecting too much there, but in terms of a reversal, right? But we do know from our MMA methodology that Venus retrograde is a little bit notorious for having at least some highs or lows of significance for stocks. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see something here. And what is really interesting, and I outlined that in the tech report as well, is that in Ray's original study for the Dow Jones, it's not unusual to see half primary cycle crests or larger cycles form within quite a tight orb of, I think it's 10 trading days. And that overlaps actually with one of those super CRDs, as we call it in the tech report, where several of our best performing CRD methods overlap. So, and that is in week 9 to 10 in the Nasdaq. So I'm wondering if we will see indeed a nice rally out of this major cycle bottom here and form a half primary cycle crest, or if not that, maybe the next major cycle crest. So that was sort of the outlook that I gave in the tech report, and I'm curious to see how that will play out.
Very good. Well, we're going to get into that tech report in just a moment. But before we do, Wiebke, I do want to take a look at what's happening in cryptos right now, because some very interesting price action, to say the least. Bitcoin down another 5% here in the cash market, pretty much erasing all of those post US presidential election gains. There's still some on the table here, but falling to our lowest level since early November 2024. So do you think we're just falling into, a temporary bottom, or are we coming into a bigger low of significance here? And do you think Venus retrograde has something to do with this as well?
Yeah, it could very well be. And I think we're making an intermediate term cycle low here. I don't think we're quite done yet with Bitcoin. I think it will come back. I think that was also your outlook as well. So yeah, I do not trade Bitcoin myself, so I'm watching it, of course, because it seemed to be really tightly coupled with tech lately. So yeah, but it looks to me like we're making an intermediate term low, where we will then have another rally following.
Well, one of the things I like about this current decline is the fact that Ethereum has not taken out its low from February 3rd, but Bitcoin just did. So, we are in the time band for that low, like you say. And, we have also observed Mars and Cancer leading to 20% or greater moves. And we already got that, here in Ethereum. I think we just satisfied that already. So now that Mars is direct in Cancer, that study played out again. Let me see if we got that in Bitcoin already. I don't think it's since Mars went direct here. It just would have been a couple of days. Not quite, but yeah, so not almost there. I mean, if we were to fall down to like the mid $70,000 area, then that would satisfy that study again. But really interesting stuff happening in crypto. And, I think it does a really good job at helping to measure the market's appetite for risk. And you mentioned how it trades so closely with tech. It's so true. A lot of speculation going on both in crypto and in tech. So when they're both selling off, it does suggest to be a bit cautionary, but we know the cycles are, lining up for something interesting, which I think is a good segue into the tech report. I do want to just share this here so our viewers can see it. It's a very well put together report. Covers several stocks, including some of the Magnificent Seven names. It gives a breakdown on the Nasdaq. Wiebke, I'll let you kind of talk about it here in a moment too. But what I love is how you have some of the bigger tech names like Apple, Tesla, Google, Nvidia, and Microsoft. And Wiebke really dove deep and did these super CRD studies, kind of taking Ray's research to the next level. So anything that you want me to draw attention to in this report, and any updates do you want to share with our viewers on this today?
Yeah, I would like to. First of all, thank you for sharing this here as well. That's great, and I mean, it's out there. People can still get it for free, the first version. So if you want it, then subscribe to the free weekly forecast, and you will get it emailed as well. The next issue will come out in on March 25th. So that will be the next update there. But yeah, we had some nice developments. We had a good trade working on Nvidia, but we will come to that in a minute. But I do want to give an update because we also had two trades in there where we were speculating that a primary cycle bottom might have occurred already. One was on Microsoft, for example. But we have since taken out that low, and we actually did get some nice feedback from some of the people who read the report, and they were specifically asking, so what's the strategy now since we did make a lower low? And I just want to give a quick update here. So the strategy didn't really change. We're still in the time band for the primary cycle bottom in Microsoft, and we just made another low today. And any new low here really is, probing a candidate for probing the long side with a stop loss on that recent low. So we still have, I think, 2 or 3 weeks to go in that cycle time band. But since we're making presumably a major cycle bottom in the Nasdaq, I think we're close here, and we do see some oscillator divergence as well forming, at least on the daily chart for Microsoft. So I'd keep watching this one for a possible candidate here. And the same really with Google. We also had a lower low since the report, but same strategy here. So we can keep probing the long side, and we still have, I think, 2 weeks to go in the cycle time band. So the primary cycle bottom doesn't seem to be in yet. So that's also another candidate here.
How do these cycles line up? I know you discussed this in the report itself, but I think it's also good to have it on video too, because then some people like to see and hear this with their eyes and ears. Do you often find that these cycles, they bottom at different times and top out at different times compared to the Nasdaq? And what about the lengths? You don't have to share the exact length, but are they similar to the Nasdaq, or are they kind of their own creatures?
They are actually their own creatures. I was really surprised to find this, to be honest, because I was thinking they make up this huge index, but they all have their own sort of characteristics, and they don't tend to be aligned really. That's at least my finding. So, but that is actually, I think, from a trading opportunity perspective, that's actually a good thing because
I agree.
We can sort of by this offset, we can sort of time some opportunities here. And just like now, I mean, we're making presumably a low of significance here in the Nasdaq. So right around this time, it's not unusual to see some sort of reversal form in these stocks as well, but just in a different phase of their cycle.
I'm so glad that you went and did the work on these individual stocks, because these are the names that move not just US stocks, but the whole world. I mean, these are the largest companies in the world, so very important for the economy overall. So it's really nice to see the MMA methodology. You really, pioneered taking it into individual stocks, because previously we never really looked at that, just stuck to the indices and in various sectors. But seeing this play out on the individual names is very nice to me, especially as someone that likes to trade stocks. Well, are you ready to cover Nvidia now?
I am. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So we have earnings today after the closing bell here in the US. It's still up on the day. So what are you looking at here, Wiebke? Do you think we've already bottomed? Do you think we have one more sell-off? Really in the big picture, we're still near the highs. Like, this doesn't look that bad, but there's a lot of concerns on the whole AI trade, and just a lot of things happening in terms of where we go here from here in the big tech space in the US. So what's your take on Nvidia? What's your update, and what can we look forward to?
Yeah, so Nvidia, we did have a nice trade so far in the tech report where we suggested a short right off of that downward sloping trend line connecting these three tops there. It was right around 140 to 143, I think. That was a nice trade down. We do have a little bit of a relief right now, but you know what concerns me about Nvidia is that we did break the primary bottom that started the current primary cycle. This one right there. So prices broke down this low. So I am suspecting here a bearish primary cycling according to MMA methodology since we broke that low. So I'm thinking that we just saw the second major cycle top touching that trend line, and now we're headed actually into the third major cycle. No, sorry, the second major cycle bottom of that cycle. So we have to see how the earnings turn out and how the stock reacts. But really, from a cycle timing perspective and market timing perspective and cycle phases, we're bound to see lower prices here. That will be my take on it.
Yeah, it's really interesting how the trend has very slowly started to change on this. And, once again, you see the value of cycles kind of acting as
Yep.
that leading indicator. The first warning was this lower high here compared to January 7th. And then, like you said, once you take out that cycle low, it turns it bearish. And now the bigger concern for me right here, just looking at the price, is if we did just have another lower high on February 18th, that's the second lower high in a row. That's very ominous. That's very
Yep.
dangerous.
And
You,
we're,
you
we're
know,
forming a downward sloping price channel here.
yeah, yeah. So, the earnings can be a wild card, especially today with the moon in Aquarius. Um, so it's going to be, it could just be a very volatile reaction. You could see it trade, 10 points each way. I wouldn't even rule that out before it just continues. But yeah, if we're going to be looking for it to drift lower, I assume into that mid-March period that you're looking at, that's kind of your target for a low right now.
Yeah, exactly. So the first one happened in week 7, the first major cycle bottom. So if you count forward about another 5 to 6, 7 weeks, then you're basically, mid-March, end of March.
Interesting. Very nice. Very nice. Well, Wiebke, any final thoughts or markets that you would like to look at? Any other commentary you'd like to add on the tech report? You said the next one comes out towards the end of March.
Correct. On March 25th, the next issue will be released and covering the same stocks and the Nasdaq, and we will update all the trades as well. So it should be a good one again.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's great. Thank you so much for joining me. And for those of you that want to meet Wiebke and myself, we will all be getting together at the Cosmic Convergence Conference in Orlando, Florida next Friday. I'm going to see you next Friday. Can you believe it?
Yes.
I mean, it seems like yesterday we were in Slovenia and Lake Bled, but that's already going to be like almost 6 months from when we were
Yeah.
last together. But it's going to be a great conference. I'm looking forward to it. You'll be doing a talk on the Nasdaq, correct?
Yes, exactly. I'll be covering long-term, intermediate term, and short-term cycles, and also be talking a bit more about the studies that I performed on the Nasdaq over the last 2 years, and also about the critical reversal days and sharing some insights on that. So, yeah, if you can make it, then come to Orlando. It's going to be a
Yeah.
great conference.
It's always not, Florida is always beautiful this time of year in the States. So if you
It's my
want,
first time actually, so
oh
I'm
really?
excited.
Great, great, great. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you again, Vipka. And everyone, thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We have weekly updates. And we just also sent out the monthly grains report written by Wyatt Fellows. And aside from that, we're all going to be getting together next week in Orlando. So hope to see you there. Vipka, thank you so much for joining me. That's all for now.
Thank you.